Google gives us a broadcast. It's Sam and Michael and Brent, and it is the AsyncVoter KickOff / retro meeting. I think I worked out why I'm like kind of running at half speed today. Actually, it was Halloween last night, and all the kids were out trick or treating, and one of my sons, I think, kind of overindulged on sweets, and he was actually up in the night, and Kate got into our bed and didn't give me a very good night's sleep. So it all starts to. I didn't actually remember that had happened until halfway through the day, but there we go. So what's that? And I've now got myself into a sort of sensible state by drinking a cup of coffee for the first time in about 4 weeks. But there we go.
Oh dear.
So, how you doing?
He's off the wagon.
I think it's restart. A restart. It's day one again. It's
yeah.
There we go. How are you doing, Brent? You all right?
Yes, thanks. Yes, I'm good.
Good show. And Michael is here. And so I had been hoping to pair with. I had emails with Paolo yesterday about pairing today, but I think we've been thrown off by the time change. Maybe he'll show up. I guess Nimit may join us, but here we are in AsyncVoter land. We didn't have a meeting last week. I think I was away. I guess based on this, retro kickoff idea, we can spend a moment at the beginning just looking back on the last 2 weeks of work on the AsyncVoter, and I can take notes. That's been quite successful in some meetings that we've done recently. I think particularly Brent is absolutely wonderful in his ability to just sort of say how he feels about things. Gosh, that's that kind of honesty and pragmatism, Brent. If only everybody had that, that would be a different world.
Yep, and sometimes it doesn't work in your favor.
Well, I think honesty and pragmatism, in the long run, it always comes out for the best.
I agree. Yeah. In the right environment.
Well, and it's all, gosh, there's so many, the whole socio cognitive emotional framework of life and teams and so on. But so we did have an interesting chat earlier in the week about the Redis and trying to do things. Brent, any thoughts looking back over the last couple of weeks of what's been happening with the AsyncVoter project?
Not really. Unfortunately, no. I've let you down.
Well, again, if you're just being open and honest, then you haven't.
I mean, personally, for me, it's been fine. I've been dipping in when I can on things. Node is not something I do a lot of, so for me, it's a learning exercise. Cool. I've done a few of the small things like the help, etc. And as you just mentioned, I've been looking at the Redis stuff. I sort of gave up on that yesterday, but then after speaking to you, I've decided to maybe give it another shot. I've not had much chance to do that yet, but that's the intention at least.
Yeah. So there was the struggle that we had there was, and I've done this. This is one format for retros. Struggles and suggestions is Redis does not necessarily make it easy to dump all the keys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's querying the database is the ultimate goal there.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. And I think as we were discussing, that's the way forward is move on to the model where we store data over API, and that will unlock things. I was just going to mention one of the things I've been feeling quite positive about is the fact that we are now doing sort of async voting, in that now that we made that change, I think that Michael and Marion got through, that sort of stores and has keys that include the name of the ticket, we can now successfully have votes in multiple channels. And the Phoenix One project ran like about 16 votes in parallel, and it all worked. And so I think that's lovely. And we've also got the new help functionality that you got out, Brent, and that's great. And
Yeah, just I guess one comment on the multiple async voting. I think it is great, and I think it's something we need. And I was involved in the Phoenix one, and it can be a bit confusing. And I don't think that's because of the async voter functionality. I think it's more of Slack's functionality. Yeah, and I found myself replying on the wrong threads and things like that because it was yeah, it was a little bit confusing, or can be a bit confusing. Now how we make that you know, that experience better, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we can, because I say I think it's based on how Slack is more than the actual async voter functionality.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It's you know, as we add new functionality and see how people interact with it, and that's all part of the pitch. It's good to be aware of that. It's reminding me that I should add notes about help function to the Slack. What is it called? Like default args for voter, so people know it's there. Yeah. Cool. And so, Michael, anything that you've been struggled with? Any successes or suggestions for the project?
So I just dumped the Redis database yesterday. I'm wondering what you guys mean that you can't dump all the keys. Are you saying that there's...
I think programmatically, Brent was trying to like pull out all the keys, and I think he and I were looking. There are ways to do it through the command line and different things. It's I think Brent was thinking about being able to do like a voter list and get a list of all the currently running votes, and that may be a little bit convoluted to do that through the Redis interface, because as a cache, it's not really designed for you to do a select all operation.
Right.
Clearly, you can dump the entire thing as if you're doing for data analysis, but
so yeah, I guess what you're saying is how to get all the votes like in that channel or something like that.
For example, yes, very much the way the reminder functionality works in Slack.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I guess we carry on. I mean, part of the other thing for the retro is looking at the structure. You know, the time of the meeting, you know, whether we should be having them at different frequencies or what have you. I mean, I think should Sam work on fewer projects? I do have this sort of sinking suspicion that my task switching between different projects is maybe limiting the effectiveness of some things, but yeah, it's because it's more of a personal issue than necessarily one to bring up with the team. But yeah. Well, unless anybody has any other specific suggestions or things they want to share,
I'd like to say that on the API thing, I'd like to be involved in working with that. I don't think it's something I can do myself 100%, because it's, as I say, I have limited knowledge of Node, and I think it's Express that's being used here. And I've never used, I think, did we decide on MongoDB as the...
Yeah, we've got MongoDB in place as the with a Mongoose wrapper in place. I think it's, I say this, like, it's kind of all remarkably simple at one level. So I would, but yeah, I think we can definitely get you involved in that. I mean, I was sort of assuming that, I mean, if Paolo didn't show up now and you were free, like after this meeting, we could take a stab at looking at this. I've kind of got some notes that we maybe need to turn into tickets and just, well, maybe, I mean, that's sort of the next way forward. So maybe we can kind of move on to looking at that and how we go about all of that in the next phase of the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, that works for me, because I think if I can just get involved and understand it over a couple of sessions, I'll then maybe able to go away and work and do stuff, you know, off of my own steam, as it were.
Sure.
It's just having that confidence initially to understand that I feel I understand what needs to be done and how the project is formed, etc.
Oh, totally. Yeah. So, well, I guess what we'll do is, I mean, we've got that's the retro notes. I'll pop that in the channel. It reminds me, I was supposed to do the mob retro document. Has anybody even looked at that? But okay. I've definitely felt like I've been a bit underwater today. But so, I mean, in principle, you know, the sort of the plan, the common pattern that I imagine across local support website one AsyncVoter is that then the kickoff is about looking for stuff that we need to vote on. If people have tickets they want voted on, this is a format that Michael proposed. Is, you know, like, let's just vote on the tickets that people want to get voted on rather than trying to like do everything in the board, because there's often there's particularly website one there's too much. And you know, people can assign themselves or not, and whether we do that at a week or a 2 week sprint. But I guess we don't have like outstanding stuff. The help feature, the new AsyncVoter Redis structure, it's all deployed. Everything's in there. I guess what have we got here? Okay. Oh gosh, give me a second. Can you? Sammy, okay, right. No shed yet. Oh. People are supposed to be delivering a new bike shed to my house today, and it's, I don't know. I moved the doorbell up into my room, so and it's not. Anyway.
You're bike shedding. You're bike shedding.
Yeah. We're gonna have a big special box in which to sit and discuss things that are technically not really very important. So this I think is the right. Yes, I think Paolo and I may even have started on this. This is the like, in order to adjust the API's data model to work so that it can store all the data coming out of whatever it's called.
Mongo.
Or coming out of the voting stuff. That's what, I was sort of imagining that if Paolo and I got together, we would have worked on that today. Oh, what's this? The Slack integration here? I'm not even sure what that is. That's like a year old. That was, I think that can probably even be closed. Does anybody have anything that they want to get voted on in here, or anything they want to assign themselves to? If not, we can just move on with trying to get some of the stuff done, potentially.
Yeah, I think I probably need to have some time to read through some of them. I'm not really just looking at them offhand. I can't think of any at the moment.
Yeah, and no problem. I mean, you've already got one story assigned to you, which is the one that you were looking at, and as we said, we're maybe going to punt on that one till we've moved a bit further with these other things that relate to the API. I mean, there are sort of two things that I see immediately are one is, as I say, getting the data model in the API to match what we know we need to store, and the other one is actually get the AsyncVoter API up on Azure Doku.
And I guess S81 as well, add user IDs to stories and votes.
Yeah, that's which we've got voted on. That was, we're arbitrarily starting on the source of the story. But what we could do there is, I don't know how much time you've got now, Brent or Michael, but we could just have a little mobbing session on making sure that we've all got the API set up locally and are able to build it and got the dependencies in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good till probably about 4:30, maybe a little bit later. Yeah,
that kind of works for me. I think it's certainly worth seeing if we can get the things set up and working on our respective, as we did that one time before with you, Brent, you, me, and Paolo, getting everybody with the things running locally. So even for myself, I just checked that I've got the latest code. So add your ventures, and then AsyncVoter API. And so, yeah, so I think I'm here on this add source to story on this particular branch. Yeah, I'm going to run the tests locally for myself. But yeah, so there's, I should be able to just go in here and go AsyncVoter API. So you may not have checked this out locally before, Michael or Brent.
No, I'm just looking for it now. Async.
I put the link in Slack and in chat there. Yeah, so I've got the things working for me locally, and I discovered as I rebooted the computer the other day that I've got here. Let's get rid of this. This was from yesterday's sessions on this, that, and the other. Oh gosh. Right.
If I just clone this direct, have I got access, or do I need to fork it?
I think you can clone it. I would just clone it direct, and if you don't have access, we can easily add it to you, or fork if you prefer.
No, that's fine.
I think what I've got here is I've got like notes. Yeah, this was like notes from a previous session. I just want to grab these. This is in the Slack command thing of the things that we would need to do to like connect the Slack command, the slash command, up to the API. Pop that in here. My notes on how to. Okay. It's interesting. NPM. Right. I think, yeah, I think what I have here is stuff that I started with Paolo, and we've got like a breaking acceptance test. If I can remember how to run it. Yeah, there we go. Right, right. Let's just check. So where have I got? This is the get the first story with source comes from this start ballot. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So it's coming back to me. I've basically got. I adjusted the acceptance test so that it would submit, you know, like a source URL, and then now it tries to check that it's actually returning that information, like that information was stored, and it's broken. So there's basically that.
So where is it submitting that to? Is that out in Azure or?
So at the moment, in this context, this is just this Cucumber test is running locally, and we've got like, given that I submit the URL, so there's also like a naming issues here. We've got start ballot, but it's called start vote there. There was a discussion about whether they were votes or ballots. But so we've got now, so we've got here this, you can see the Cucumber stuff here is matching the regular expression, and then it's doing this make and send post, and it's constructing you know, a payload to post against the stories endpoint. And okay, that's kind of just in the test environment. It's kind of like running the Express server locally. And I think if we now that, where does it was this make and send post? Let me see if I can find that. I think that must be in the world. There we go. Yeah, so you can see here. Yeah, we're basically hitting the server endpoints with our, you know, on that route with the data.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you want to share your screen and we'll see if we can get your npm installed and
Yep.
run stuff? And Michael as well, if you're interested. I don't know. Did you previously check out this AsyncVoter API? And
maybe a long time ago. I'm actually not on my. Well, I guess it could run on Windows, right?
I mean, only if you're interested to kind of like get it working and potentially contribute to the development going on forward, but entirely up to you. Let's go. So print there 7.4.0, and I don't know, have we specified a version?
Yeah, I think it said 6.8 or newer, I read.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're on 7.4, that's perfectly, stick with that and we'll see what happens. What am I doing here? I've got 6.11.2 that I happen to be running at the moment, but yeah. Have you done npm install already?
No, sorry, I was just reading the instructions.
Oh, very, very sensibly so.
Yeah, npm all of a sudden seems to be very, very slow on my machine. I think, like I said earlier, I'm about ready for a reboot.
Oh, right, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, while you do that, I might also kind of work in parallel on thinking about getting this onto Azure, or Azure Docker. We've got history grep. We've got boom, 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 boom. Well, if I do this app, so we can get a list of our. So I think all right. I already created an AsyncVoter API production there. I don't know if I pushed anything to it yet. CD async voter command ls there. Okay, let's see. So I've got. So what I could do is do here. What would I as a git remote add, and so we want this to be AsyncVoter API option. And I can call that Azure production here. So this sets us up to. I've now got something called Azure production that will try as AsyncVoter API production. If I called it the wrong thing, no, it's called AsyncVoter API production. So I could just like, if I get checkout master, push Azure production master. How's your npm install?
Yeah, it's finished. So do I need to get MongoDB installed by the looks of this?
Probably, if you don't have it installed already.
No.
Yeah. So, go on, Michael.
I was just stuff. I'm working in the background on my project. So
on the
I was gonna tell you that, yeah, I got rid of your data and the bot data.
Oh, okay.
And the AUC went way up, like to 0.83, but I have to confirm that that's real.
No, that sounds good.
From like 0.75, that's like a lot, right?
Right. So for Brent, this is like removing some extraneous data from the data mining machine learning framework, and
yeah. It seems like
going from 75% to 83%, which is a good step up.
Seems like every time that I clean the data up, scrub it more, and make sure it's more accurate, like the accuracy goes up.
That seems like a nice trend. Good show. So in the background there, it's interesting. I've kind of deployed this thing. I do love Doku and how it seems to replicate all of the nice features of Heroku, of allowing us to very simply deploy things. I'm fairly sure that this will all not work because I haven't, kind of installed MongoDB there. It's interesting that it's going. It seems to be putting it onto a port there. I mean, I guess I'm going to have to kind of do the same stuff that I did with AsyncVoter, and like give it like a domain name and gosh, what else? Like hook that sort of stuff up. But it's actually giving me a little thing here with an odd URL. I would normally, I'm almost certain that won't work there, but I'm just interested to put it in and see what it says. Yeah, not secure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if it's trying to run something on that port.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it just need to be HTTP?
Give it a try. Yeah. And then cannot get slash. Is that actually because what do we have? Was it votes? Cannot get votes. I mean, it looks like I'm actually hitting an Express server there, doesn't it?
Does yeah.
I just remember what the it's stories, isn't it? I think we call it. Yeah. So going back to the, that's not like this. You were very sensibly reading the documentation there before, Brent, and we here we are. Yeah. So this has got like a whole description of it's all right getting stories and this, that, and the other. Here we go. Thinking about getting stories. I assume it would encounter some sort of error without it like failing to talk to the database now, but
seems to be doing something there.
It's certainly doing something. I mean, also it's intriguing to me that we can even get this message back, because I would have thought that this kind of port number would just be blocked by Azure, but fascinating. Anyhow, we'll leave that. I mean, there's other bits and pieces there. How are things going in your system?
Well, I've installed Mongo, but it doesn't seem to be starting unless it has started, and I need to do it as a background task.
Yeah, I think it does. I think I do seem to have Mongo running in the background now, but I knew that took yeah. If you run that in the background, and then you could just try and run npm test, it could all just work. I mean, it probably won't, but it's worth a try. Oh,
I was lucky.
There we go. Yeah. Well, so that's. I think you've got that working a little bit. We've got something gone wrong on my one, which I was sort of expecting, but I think I can conceivably now look at the logs for AsyncVoter API production, if that's the right command. And it'll probably tell me something about, basically there's no MongoDB. So we're getting, the things that we expect. I had an interesting chat actually with Ben Blanchard in the previous Scrum, where I was saying I have this pathological distrust of anything written down. I need to be continually interacting with stuff in order to feel like but yeah, like it's just as exciting to see this error, because I was expecting to see the error. Yep. And there we go. That's we've got here, and so you've got that. That's the tests. They're all green. So you've got the whole.
I think there's some cucumber tests as well, wasn't there?
There are. So that's something you could try. It's npm run cucumber to get the cucumber tests running. And they're green as well.
Wonderful.
So yeah. So I mean, we got two things there. I mean, we could even, like, you could check out the branch that I've got, which I think probably starts with an 80, corresponding to the ticket. or does it? Yeah, 880. So you could just try git checkout 80 underscore, and we could see potentially the failing test. Just hit tab. Here. Yeah, and now run the cucumber tests, and there probably should be one failing. Yep. So that's we've got, you know, I've added the test there, which we were looking at before, which is to now try and add this source value when we submit the URL, and excuse me. Yeah, that's of course not funny. Oh, I guess I'm actually on a different branch now, aren't I? I've gone back onto master. Let me just get check out 80. There we go. Yeah, I've just sort of lengthened the thing, and it now. I mean, interestingly, the test was a sort of a vacuous test in the way that it is on the master branch at the moment, because it does the submission, and then it just checks that it gets an OK back. It doesn't actually check that any of the data was stored.
Right.
So I added in that after it submits the URL, it then pulls the data back out of the API, and so it's now rigorously checking for that, and then it's finding that the source hasn't been stored. And so if we were following the kind of outside-in process, given that we've now got a failing acceptance test, we could move on to writing a lower level test. What have we got here? I'm just going in to refresh my mind of, you know, this code base, which was all written about, I guess, about a year ago now, or 10 months ago. Look at the model here. So we've kind of got, yeah. And so this is, I think I was looking at this with Paolo, and so what we've got here is all of the model tests at the moment are just testing the finding stuff, and there's no kind of unit tests for actually creating things unless they're through the roots operation. And in fact, they are there. Okay. So
Post, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess my path of least resistance in some ways, to go with the grain of the code we have, would just be to add the source thing here and see if this causes the test to break. Go on.
The name is, I'm sorry. So when we create a vote, we create a bit of text and then the URL.
Mm-hmm.
So is the name that bit of text, the URL is the URL?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And the way this is set up is that we're talking about the sort of central domain entity as being a story. So the things that get voted on our story, and then when we create a vote, we do actually, which are not in. There's nothing in that. Oh, we've got votes. The votes corresponds to like an individual, the one vote from one person. If you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's right. Yeah. There's definitely some variation across different parts of the code base. But yes, and so we could, in principle, just here, I could put in source and kind of copy over what we've got from here, saying the source might be that it took place in a particular channel.
Yep.
Like so. And then we could go over and do npm test and see if anything fails, and it doesn't, because does it make sense why it doesn't fail there?
No, it doesn't. Because I would assume that if that source isn't defined in the model, then it should fail. but I guess it is defined then.
Well, I think it might not be. My theory is that basically what's happening is these parameters are being passed over, and in the processing of it, the system is pulling out the things that it needs, and anything that's not needed is ignored.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
So the interesting thing, if we look at the way in which this test operates, is it's basically saying that the response that it gets back when we do this post is a 200, and that the response body should have this in it.
So I guess we could do response.source body.source. Yeah.
Yeah. So interestingly here, if we send it, the funny thing about this is that based upon the API kind of description that we have over here. Okay. No, that's if we get this. That's if we get all the stories. If we no, okay, right. That's interesting. So yeah, when we post to create a new story, it does actually return all of the details of the thing. So that probably means that the cucumber test could be simplified, rather than necessarily requerying the database. And actually, it's a good for it to be a cucumber test. That's fine. But yeah. So go on, Michael.
Are you guys? You're just trying to now figure out how to get the API to store just the stories, or?
Well, the API will store the stories. This ticket that I'd started with Paolo is adjusting the data model so that stories will also include a source field as well. And we're just getting the point to ensure that the unit test fails, which it now does, because
what's the story, like what's the source field?
Well, the source field is going to be where the vote took place. So we've got, I mean, we just added here like that when we create a story to be voted on, that there is a sort of a source for where the story has been created from, where the sort of initiation of the ballot has been created from. And so we can now specify that.
Oh, okay. So it's the URL.
Yeah, and we, open text field, make it a URL. We've done the same in the cucumber level test, and now so we're just checking, right, that source is.
So the idea is that's going to be the message for what? That's going to be like the message where the bot posted?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that, for example, someone will start a vote on a particular story, as described in terms of its name and a URL.
Okay.
For it, and so that conceivably at some point in the future they might start that through a web page, or they might start it through wherever. But wherever they initiate that ballot, this source will represent where it was initiated.
Okay.
And I mean, this is specifically for, like, if we're going to have this API replace Redis, right? You need the channel information. So this is where it will go.
Okay.
So then, and Brent, I'm very happy to pong this over to you if you want to switch roles, or I'm happy to carry on driving if you're just sort of I know it's like a new setup.
Yeah, I can have a look. That's fine. Let me.
I'll just commit this code then. Git commit -am failing unit test. Origin 80. So yeah, if you pulled out the there, yeah, and you just ran npm test, you should see one failure.
Should.
Yep, that looks.
Yep.
That's the right one. Same one I'm getting. So and then I can guide you, or you can investigate. I think it's going to be relatively straightforward changes to the underlying system to make this work. But of course, being able to find the right place all depends upon how familiar one is with the code base. I mean, it's been a long time since I worked on this particular code base, but I do roughly remember where the things are.
Okay, let me just bring it up in an editor. Why are you not? Oh, I know. I must have shared just the application rather than the screen. 2 seconds. So if I reshare. Right, so if I bring up, so
yes, the source directory, yeah. So we've been working so far in the features and test, but yeah, now exactly we're in the source directory. We've got our 2 models or schemas if you're in Elixir Phoenix.
Yeah, so there's no. So I'm assuming we've got to add. Source.
Yes, I think we certainly will. Yes.
So again, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think you're assuming right.
Source equals request. No, I shouldn't need to change anything there because it's just. So I guess we try the test now.
Yeah. Now, I think I know why it might still not be working, but if we go back to story controller, I think they're on line 16. We need to pass the source in as well as all the other things.
Ah, yeah, good.
That would be lovely, and universally. Does it pass? Yeah,
it did. Yes. Awesome.
So, right. Yeah. So you could commit that, and I think we could open a PR. We've kind of got that. Oh, I guess what you should do run the cucumber test actually.
Yeah.
Because what we should. So we've just seen the unit test pass.
Should you guys have CI running on this yet, or no?
I don't know that we do. I think we have CI running on the Slack command, but probably not on.
Not on this.
I'm not sure actually. I'll have to check. We'll open a pull request and see.
That worked as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. So if you want to commit that in and get that, that was well. Interestingly, from what Ben was just Ben in the previous, he was talking about how it took an hour to get set up, and how difficult it was. How he would have loved to have just dropped in on pairing and actually get some coding done. This is sort of the ideal. Here we are. It's almost. We've only been 30 minutes on this, and we've managed to actually deliver a feature. That's I think it must be close to a record.
Yeah, so that should work for you, hopefully.
Yeah, and I'll run that locally and maybe open a pull request. Yeah. So git pull.
Actually, I delivered a feature yesterday in 10 minutes or so.
Well, Michael, you are a cut above.
We aspire to be you, Michael.
Indeed. One day with dedication. So that's all passing for me locally. I'll just open a pull request there. I think we only have a master branch. here. Insert.
Yeah, I must install Hub and have a play because it looks nice to be able to create a pull request from the command line.
I'm really enjoying. I should do what other. I'm so comfortable. Well, say so comfortable. I've got so used to using it now. I should do what other people do, which is that they basically replace the Git thing with Hub, because you can do all the so this is adding source field to story model. So pull request is up. So that's a nice little step forward. It looks like there is a, we do have a CI or something is there. We'll see. I mean, as I say, I've been having all sorts of trouble with Travis on local support. But there we go. Yeah, and look at this. We've got a lovely outside-in acceptance test, unit test application change.
Cool.
Good stuff. So I guess the other things that need to happen are there's adding the user ID to the votes. I mean, we've got this big, there's all sorts of like stuff in the code base that we could be getting into that I think, that can be all for the fun future evolution of the project.
Yeah, well, I can sort of scan through the code and familiarize myself with it. And then what I might do is, time permitting, I'm actually away this weekend, so I've only got some time tomorrow, but I'm back on Tuesday. Then I can maybe start looking at some of the other tickets and getting votes on them, and then maybe making some changes. Yeah,
no, totally. I think that the other key thing is that what I will need to do is I need to install Mongo for Doku. Now I think I have done that for some of the other instances. Go on.
Like with the voter, the async voter, is there multiple versions in on Doku? So there's production, staging, dev, or is it just production?
At the moment, we've only got the production,
right?
But I'll as soon as I've got a production working with. Oh, here we go. Yes, Doku plugin install. Yeah, so I think I've already installed it. I just need to work out how to look at all the usage there. Yeah, I think probably what I will do is I will get a cup of tea and I might just work on. There's going to be some sequence of commands which does this, and it's not necessarily so interesting to watch. So I think that was we managed to fit a retro task prioritization and actually getting a feature delivered today. So great stuff. And I guess this time continues to work well for us. We might, once the US clocks go back, we'll see where we are next week. But great stuff. Have a wonderful. I guess I miss you tomorrow, Brent, but do have a wonderful weekend away if I don't see you tomorrow, and we'll catch up next week either way.
Yeah, thanks very much, and I'll speak to you later. Yep, cheers, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. Bye for now. Take care.